Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Salam.
My name is Alberto, and I'm a researcher at the International Indonesian Islamic University here in the outskirts of Jakarta. So, in this new section for the Voice of Indonesian Islam, we will discuss some insights about what or how Indonesia perceives and interprets Islam in a multicultural society within the global context. I mean, we have heard several insights from Islam from several parts of the world, but we want to know more about what Indonesia, as the largest Muslim majority country in the world, can offer, what insights can offer, so that we can have more voices, more opinions, more perspectives on how the religion and society can indeed foster a more pluralistic and progressive society. So, for today, from today's session, we will discuss how is Indonesia linked to this region, how Islam is practiced in Indonesia and Archipelago. For today's session, we will have Professor Zuhdi. He is a renowned lecturer here in Indonesia. He is actually a professor from the Faculty of Education at the Indonesian Islamic University here in Jakarta. So he has some insights about how indeed the role of education is crucial for fostering moderation, tolerance, and pluralism within religious principles, in this case, Islamic principles. Professor Zuhdi has already, as his background is in education, and he has already studied a master in Australia and a PhD in Canada. So he already has some insights about the importance of coexisting within other minorities and religious groups. So thank you, Professor, for your
My
attendance.
pleasure.
So for my question is, first of all, we have heard about Islam that is usually, when it comes to our minds, especially if you are foreigner, you are outside of Indonesia, it comes to our minds that Arabs, the desert, the Middle East,
Yes.
terrorism,
Yes.
clash with the West.
Yes.
But when you come to Indonesia, when you live in Indonesia, you find another view, another image, more like, let's say, friendly, colorful, and tolerant. Is there something like Indonesian Islam according to you? Or how can we define Indonesian Islam first and foremost?
Thank you, Alberto. Yes, a very interesting question indeed. I visited several countries, met with friends from different countries and different religions as well. And I kept receiving the same question as you asked for. So, what is the difference of Indonesian Islam? Islam is actually one. There's only one Islam in this world. Islam is the religion, the belief that is sent by Allah to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, when it comes to interpretation of Islam, when it comes to practice of Islam as a religion, there are different ways Muslims interpret Islam and practice Islam according to their where they live. And Indonesia is, in a sense, is unique, but it's not actually unique in the sense of how people interpret Islam. So Indonesian Muslims have their own way in interpreting Islam and practicing Islam because of the history of how Islam came to Indonesia and the history how Islam spread out of Indonesia and the history how Muslim regions in Indonesia interacted with the local people, local religions, and local traditions. There are gradual ways of introducing the faith and introducing the religious practices to the local people, and it becomes the some sort of colors of Indonesian Islam that we can see right now.
Alright. So, as we can see, well, I have heard that there is something like Islam warna-warni. Like,
Exactly. Yeah.
let's say, warna-warni, colorful. Maybe, the weather, the culture,
Right.
that makes Islam in Indonesia different from the Middle East because you hear Islam is desert or Arabs, but indeed in Indonesia you find another face. And still, it's Islam after all because this is a religion. It's not that it's a new sect or other religion. It's just the way how it is practiced and lived. Islam in this region of the world, in this Southeast Asia, as a melting pot between the Pacific and Indian Ocean. So when someone is here in Indonesia, for sure it gets to some extent surprised how Indonesian Muslims and Indonesians in general are friendly, are polite towards foreigners. They are open-minded in the sense to welcome other peoples. And maybe this is because historically they have welcomed people from several parts of the world and until today. And it is in this context when I have learned many times the war was at the end. Maybe in the West or in other parts of the world, it's unknown word. You may hear about Taliban, Salafi, Wahhabi, ISIS, Al Qaeda, but what is Wasatiyah, for instance? But in Indonesia, it's quite common to, especially in academic or other socio-political contexts. So, could you explain us what is it meant Wasatiyah and what is the importance for today's society?
Yes. Before I going into that issue, I'd like to explain a little bit how Indonesian Islam is very colorful. What as you said, because Indonesia is a huge country. Uh, Without Islam, Indonesia is already colorful with culture, with diversity of ethnics, with diversity of languages, with diversity of religions, with traditions. People in the mountains will be different from those in the in the seashores, in the coastal areas, on the river sides, on the down of the mountains. So they have different challenges. They have different traditions. They have different interaction with the nature, but still they are close to the nature. The good thing is, and about Indonesia, and Indonesia is blessed with the natural resources. But we have very unlimited natural resources, and people in Indonesia, they don't have to fight to find water. They don't have to fight to find food. They don't. They don't have to fight to find the sunshine. They don't have to fight to find different resources, so they can share everything easily. That's why Indonesian people are open, because you can find those natural resources easily. People are sharing this. Unlike in other part of the world, when you're not easy to find water, you have to fight in to get water. But Indonesia, no. It's, that's why Indonesian people are very generous. Indonesian people are open-minded and welcome to everyone. So when it comes to religions, because from the beginning, when Islam came to Indonesia, there are already several faiths in Indonesia, and there are already several traditions including animism, Danimism, and local faith, local tradition. So Islam came to introduce itself to the local people and respect the traditions. And because they respected the nations, when Islam came to different part of Indonesia, they introduce Islam is introduced in different ways, depending on what is the tradition of the local people. So that's why the local people accept Islam, embrace Islam, and they they can, live side by side together between Muslims and those who believe in Christianity, those who believe in even animism, and even in local belief, local faith, so they can live together side by side easily. Now, when the tradition of other part of the world come to Indonesia, they introduce Islam, who are not really friendly. They are Some people are concerned about Muslim being exposed to different faith, being exposed to different vision and different beliefs, and some even are concerned about some Muslim being converted to other religion. So that's why some Muslims are very protective, and they try to maintain their faith and the faith of their colleagues, their fellow Muslims. And that's why they start to become harder to others. And then that's when the sort of radicalism and even extremism coming about. They try to attack Islam, maintain Islam, and promote Islam in ways that can not be disturbed with other beliefs. So when they heard other beliefs try to sort of distract Muslims, they try to protect them and sometimes attack them. Oh. And that's when the radicalism and extremism start take place. And some Muslim, some Indonesians, unfortunately, were influenced by this belief and this tradition from outside of Indonesia. They were exposed to radicalism and extremism and promote belief of and tradition of this extremism and radicalism to protect their own religion. As a result, they some become more conservative, more radical than others. On the other side, the some Muslims are very open, uh, make Islam very easy, and sometimes they just follow the values of Islam without uh, really practicing Islam. So they try to make take the easiest part of Islam. They claim themselves as Muslim, but they don't practice Islam. They they come far left, become too liberal as Muslims, accept different ism other than Islam, and try uh, to uh, introduce or integrate those different isms to Islam, and that really makes Islam become far away from the main tradition, and they become far away to go to the left. So there are people who go far to the right, become more extreme, more radical. There are people who go far to the left, more liberal, more open-minded. And there are people who believe that Islam should stay in the middle. Islam should accept tradition, maintain faith, maintain tradition, but not too far, not to violence others' rights, not to attack others' rights. Islam have to be stick on their uh, road, and also not to go far to the left, not to be too liberal, because they have Muslims should maintain their tradition, should maintain their faith, should maintain their prayers, should maintain their belief, not far to the left. So that's why some scholars reintroduce the modern way in Islam, which is actually this is actually the main message of Islam. Moderate way of living. Not too far to the right, not too far to the left, but we keep the moderate way of being Muslim. Not too much excessive on protecting the rights and respect, attacking others, but not also too open uh, and to leave it.
Yes. That's so insightful because, well, Indeed, what we should learn is that Islam is not static. First of all, it's not.
Yes.
We cannot generalize that all Muslims are portrayed in the media as like we have seen Western media like terrorists or fundamentalists and the like, but should realize that to some extent each Muslim is unique because it will interpret its own religion based on personal experiences, personal circumstances, environment, several factors. So I think this will find in maybe in other religions as well. But
Yes.
most important here is to highlight how, in the case of Indonesia, we can realize like Indonesia is like kind of microcosmos where we can find like a type of several interpretations from conservative ones to liberal to moderate. It's like a world in its own, but still it's like a country where we can find an alternative voice. And this is why I think this is very important, the meaning of moderation, because we are facing several problems like intolerance or particularly intolerance because we are in a more diverse society.
Yes.
So because of that, maybe we are facing several problems, not from home to society. And that's why I think that we should learn more about the meaning of moderation or wasatiyah in the Islamic context. So tell us, what is the role here of education for promoting religious moderation or Islamic moderation? Why is it important education after all? And how Indonesia has contributed to this task to promote moderation through education?
Certainly. I think, as I mentioned earlier, because Indonesian people are open, welcome visitors, welcome newcomers from different other part of the world, and we already multicultural from the beginning, and Indonesian people live together peacefully. However, in many cases, we still find Indonesian people, Indonesian Muslims, who are, Indonesian Muslims, they live in a country where the majority of the population are Muslims. There are some Indonesian Muslims who live in homogeneous community. They live within a Muslim family, within a Muslim society, within a Muslim culture, and they lack of interaction with people of different faith. Because they lack of interaction of people with different faith, they don't really know the existence, the traditions, and the values of people of different faith. Even in societies where you can find different community, let's say society in North Sumatra, you'll find society, a community of Muslim, community of Buddhism, community of Christianity. Even if they live in one society but have different communities, in many cases, these communities, they don't really interact with each other unless for the social interaction. Now, when they are facing some challenges, for example, economic challenge, some people are more prosperous than others. Some community is more financially better than the others. And some communities are more prosperous than others. So they come just, they come from, and some even might come judgmental opinions of why these groups of different faith live better and they can attack different other groups. They might want to convert people from different other groups. So this kind of prejudice may exist. And this is the most important role of religious leaders and religious teachers. when there are news about people of different faith from outside, or even news from people of the same faith in outside. For example, when people in the Muslim community learn about how Muslims in Myanmar being persecuted, Muslim in Palestine being persecuted, or Muslim in other parts in Kashmir being persecuted. If those people in the homogeneous Muslim community they heard about this, and they will ask their religious leaders, they will ask their religious teachers, what happens with those Muslims in minority situations. When the religious leaders or teachers of religion explain in a way that that make their angry to non-Muslims, let's say the religious teachers will say they are persecuted because they are living in in a non-Muslim community and they become a minority in the situation. Then what happens when Muslims live as a minority in non-Muslim communities? So that will certainly raise the value of religious sentiments against non-Muslim, and they start to develop some sort of hate against non-Muslims because the values that they receive from religious teachers and religious leaders. So if these teachers and leaders send a wrong message, send some wrong values to the children, to the students, so the children will grow up with hate, will grow up with disrespecting other believers, and when they go out to their community, meet with people on different faith, they will have some sort of hate within their hearts. It'll be different if those teachers and the religious leaders explain the situation because not necessarily because different religions, but because social, political, economic situation, and explain that Muslims, even minority in different other part of the world, they can live peacefully, they can practice their religion, they can interact with other people peacefully. So Islam is actually accepted. Islam is actually accepted in other part of the world. So Muslims can actually practice it their religion everywhere. Only because there are some certain challenges in certain localities that need to be worked out, not necessarily, rise the hate to other beliefs. So the role of religious teachers, the role of religious leaders are very important in promoting peaceful relationships between Muslim families.
Yeah, that's so insightful how education here will play a crucial role because uh, actually the problem is not the religion itself because the scriptures, all religions will exhort humanity to do good deeds, to and just simple. There is only one God because if you are starting to create divisions that there is another God that you believe in another God, you are just resting power to your own God, to God Himself. That's why religion is not the problem because it is, let's say, perfect in the way that it's crystal clear what you should do in this life. The problem is how society has interpreted the teachings for their own benefit, usually. And the worst part is not that you can get sometimes enough power to influence others, and you are like misguiding them. So sadly, this can happen, including Indonesia, the case that how teachers or educators, because of their hatred, because of their narrow-mindedness or any other issue, but that is not uh, written in the scriptures, in the Quran, for instance, they pretend to create divisions. And all of this is nothing but politically grounded, let's say, but not religiously grounded. That's why we need to consider how education here will be crucial, not just at schools or as we will see later, because in Indonesia there are several insights. So because we have like pesantren, madrasah, Islamic school, right? So that's also important to check. But still, not to forget how the role of family and the community. So basically, the challenge will be the ways we convey this message. So I think that this will be the last question for this session. We are now aware that education plays this role. So what can the world itself learn from Indonesia about religious education in general, Islamic education in particular? Because when we let's give us some examples, we think about technology. It comes to your mind, maybe Japan or other East Asian country, or if it's about arts, maybe Europe. Uh, but indeed, Indonesia can offer to the world something about religious education because Indonesia is multicultural, multiconfessional, six official religions, six recognized religions. You can find Muslims and Christians coexisting. Muslims helping Christians on Christmas to celebrate, and the like Christians helping Muslims to celebrate the end of Ramadan. You can find a mosque next to a church. It's okay. You can go to the mall and maybe see a Christmas tree and still be Muslim. This is all in Indonesia, but and sadly the world doesn't know this as it should be. Uh, this is as it should be deserved. So, in my opinion, I think that something that Indonesia can offer to the world. This is not the only thing, but one of the key is like this way to learn from religion, the importance of religion that instead of separating religion, because some people think that religion and society, religion should be separated like secularism, because religion is harmful for progress and there is no way back. You have to just keep going and believe in yourself, not in a God. But Indonesia says stop, like you have to go back to tradition. Like this is what they say, that post-secular society. But so what can the world learn from Indonesian Islam, particularly in the context of education?
Very interesting question. The key is mainstreaming moderate Islam. Not only Islam, mainstreaming moderate religion. It could be Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Hinduism, Confucianism. By mod, by mainstreaming moderate Islam, meaning that the government, those who are in charge in managing the country, continue to promote religion that are respectful to other beliefs, they are respectful to the essence of the state, they are respectful to humanity, to humanity. And this go will not go without challenge. There always be challenges too, even among Indonesian Muslims. There are always challenges that try to change, try to give change the state, the constitution, try to change the mainstream Islam, try to change the way people practice Islam. But when the government, the community leaders protect the way mainstream Islam, modern Islam become the mainstream Islam, that's a key. That's a key thing. This is something that religious leaders in other part of the world, or even uh, country leaders of in other part of the world, should promote mainstreaming moderate way of being a religious people. And in case of Indonesia, mainstreaming moderate Islam, meaning that we have to maintain, protect, and promote Islam that are respecting other religions, coexist with other believers, Islam that promote the existence of the state, the value of the state, the law of the state, the constitutions. Islam that is respecting the humanity above others. So Muslims should respect people as human beings, regardless of their religions. Give their rights, protect their rights, even their rights to believe, their rights to practice religion, even if they practice different faith. So that's basically the nature of Islam. Islam will never push others to believe in it, to embrace Islam. Islam will protect the rights of other believers. And this is something that the government and religious leaders should maintain in Indonesia, in other part of the and other part of the world.
All right. That's so insightful. So we can summarize how we have indeed an alternative voice in Islam because, as a brainer, when I was willing to learn more about Islam, is like, okay, you already fine from the Middle East, from Saudi Arabia, or from Western countries, Pakistan, but where's Indonesia, or even it's the largest Muslim country in the world.
Right.
Don't forget that fact. And what is more, when you try to find about religious moderation in Indonesia, you only find in local language, in Bahasa Indonesia, but not in English. So my concern is how we can start to let more aware about what Indonesia can offer, moderation, Islamic moderation in particular, and religious moderation. So this is how we concluded. Well, we can summarize that education here will be important because it's the only way how you can rightly guide others to what is, as in Islam says, to enjoy the good and forbid the evil. So this is very insightful for us, and I hope it can be also for you as well. For next session, we will be still discussing more about the role of Indonesia and Islam in the global scenario. Clearly, yeah, uh, through the role of Asia. So thank you so much, Professor.
Pleasure.
It's a big pleasure to have you today. So that's all for us. And stay grounded, stay balanced. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thanks.